I've mastered the ability of standing so incredibly still that I've become invisible to the eye. I'm sure I'm invisible.
Hi.
Today, we are going to attempt to become the #1 power in the galaxy without building a single ship. Yes, we're going to be doing a no fleet challenge. We're also going to be mixing that with a little bit of roleplay to keep it fun and interesting. But yes, we're going to do the one thing you absolutely should not do in Stellaris, and that is not build any navy, have no military ships whatsoever. I think it's going to be quite hard to become the #1 empire in the game by doing this. I'm not entirely sure it's possible, especially when the crisis might turn up later, but we are going to give it a good go. And if the complete absence of warships is leaving a deep hole in your heart, don't worry, the sponsor of today's video has you covered. Sail back to the primitive world of Sol 3 and take command of battleships, aircraft carriers, or even submarines. World of Warships is a free-to-play PC game with new content released monthly. You can play as a lone wolf or in a division with friendly Xenos. And until December 13th, there is a treasure hunt where you can earn in-game and real-life prizes. Get World of Warships by following the link down in the description below and using the code BRAVO. But for now, let's look at the race that we'll be trying to complete this challenge with. The Vernox Mandate are a rather interesting nation that went down the path less travelled. You see, this species never developed ships capable of fighting interstellar warfare. Now, of course, in order to play the game correctly, I am going to need construction ships and science ships, but for the purposes of today, those ships are not crewed by the Malevite people, they're actually entirely automated. And for that reason, because we rely so heavily on the primary methods of automation to get these things working, we're simply unable to build any proper starships to fight any proper wars. We're going to be building massive, giant space stations instead to both defend our space and, in theory, project our power. Whether or not it's even possible to play with no navy whatsoever, I actually don't know. We're going to give it a real good go. And of course, we're going to blend this with a little bit of roleplay. So the Vernox Mandate are led here by Frederick Higginbottom. There is an Irenic dictatorship. We have a dictatorial leadership structure with functional architecture and a society dominated by slaver guilds. We're fanatic, authoritarian, believing in the power of the state as supreme above all else, and also we are a little bit pacifist. Now, we're not directly pacifist, we don't not believe in fighting, we simply are unable to fathom the idea of living for long periods of time on a spaceship that can move. We very much believe we should stay put. That is marked very much by our sedentary behavior and our slow learning capability. So what are the rules going to be for this playthrough? We're also going to be searching for the toxic god as well. We'll see how that goes with absolutely no ships. So the rules are, I cannot build any starships of my own. Construction ships and science ships are okay. Star bases, defense platforms, and of course hangar bays with fighters on those defense platforms are absolutely fine, but the Malevite people cannot even comprehend the idea of building a corvette, a cruiser, crikey, even something as disgusting and vile as a battleship. Who would want to live on that sort of thing? It's simply preposterous. We're going to try and play correctly, and we're also going to try and fight the endgame crisis. We'll see how it goes. I've got a lot of faith in Frederick Higginbottom, but I'm not sure how it's going to go. If you want to play at home, here are the settings I'm going to be using for this game. Long ago, the planet of Vipuri was divided. Petty kings squabbled constantly, and our population bled for their vain ambition. But with the coming of the first High King, all of this changed. Their inspired leadership forged a kingdom without equal. And above all else, the High King was pious. War was waged against any who denied their god, but still the heretics persisted. The king's prayers were answered one day when the toxic god themselves visited our planet. Though its time amongst us was brief, its baneful influence poisoned the lands of the unbelievers. Any who survived then pledged fealty to the High King. For the first time, our world was thus unified. The toxic god soon left us, but the king, determined to find it, founded an order of knights. For centuries, these valiant souls searched tirelessly, but to no avail. The toxic god had long since departed from our world. The next chapter of the quest would be written amongst the stars. With the use of powerful relics, it was the Order that built our Empire's first orbital station, a mighty keep. It would become the springboard from which they plunged ever further and ever deeper into the cosmos. For you see, it was this grand station, this habitat in space, that justified our desires to expand outwards into the cosmos. We could live out there in space, we could live not just on planets like our own, but we could construct giant keeps and fortresses, and that is simply what the Vernox Mandate is all about. It wasn't through the invention of the hyperdrive. You see, we have never discovered FTL technology that fits on a ship. Instead, we use a process of quantum folding to open wormholes into adjacent systems, push through our construction ships and that sort of thing, and get on with the business of expanding the Vernox Mandate. Within days of beginning an exploration project to explore the nearby systems, a habitable planet was found. This planet was in the Poevra system, directly adjacent to the capital. And as trade began to spring up between this new colony Hailston, the capital Vipuri, and the orbital habitat Sharamouth above the capital planet, burgeoning mercantile classes began to emerge. Merchants, the true power in any economy, grabbed hold. With this new burgeoning trade industry, a policy of consumer benefits was then employed. Profit and taxes must take second place to improving the lives of the citizens within the Vernox Mandate, or at least that was the policy of the Serene Protector Frederick Higginbottom. Malevite society prospered. Cautiously, they expanded. Carefully, they found new worlds and began to adapt them to their own purposes, bringing them in to the Vernox Mandate. But this sedentary pace would mean the Malevite people would take a long time before they would discover the dangers around them. Around the binary star system of Shaula, the Vernox Mandate first discovered signs of an alien intelligence. The Psi aliens proved somewhat elusive to track down. They had already built an orbital central space station in the Shaula system, but whether or not they stuck to our tenets would remain to be seen. Of course, it is impossible for any alien to pose a threat to any other, as there is simply no way of conducting an aggressive assault against another species. The Queptilium Collective were the first species to be met in interstellar space. Existing to the north of the Vernox Mandate, this hive mind collective were very, very different to our own Malevite people. But the Malevite were a hardy people, not one to take easily to bouts of hysteria and depression. They knuckled down and they used their ingenuity to show these monstrous aliens that they would not be cowed. After decades of research, scientists in the Mandate have finally unlocked the secrets of building a space habitat in other systems. This will of course be used to spread our progeny far and wide and secure the space we so desperately need for ourselves. To the galactic east, the Birian Collective were the second species that we made contact with. Again, a collective consciousness vastly different from our own, and we have to assume with very alien intentions. It wasn't until 2228 that the Atlantean Union made themselves known to us. Yes, they had some absolutely funny and terrible ideas about democracy and liberty and rights, goodness gracious, but luckily for us, they were led by a king, King Wilhelm Alexander Klaus George Ferdinand II, making them very close to our own political structure overall. Unfortunately, the Atlantean Union were not alone. They were a subsidiary of the Lavan Syndicate, a group of apparently peaceful traders that went on to set up a criminal office and begin constructing a smuggler's port on Sharamouth, our great fortress station. With the number of potential enemies around the Vernox Mandate swelling, the Atlantean Union declaring war on the Queptilian Collective, things were starting to look a little dire. But our true nature and desire to live anywhere and everywhere possible led us to becoming Voidborn. For almost a decade, it has been nigh impossible for anyone within the Mandate to clearly explain how an interstellar war could even be taking place. But ladies and gentlemen, these images from Succubus's ball that I bring you right now must be seen to be believed. They have constructed giant space habitats and attached enormous thrusters to the back of those habitats. It is an abomination against everything we as the Vernox Mandate stand for. The Serene Protector Frederick Higginbottom has issued some deep concerning statements regarding this, and all citizens are reminded to stay at home until further notice. And if you're enjoying this video, please build a fortress around that like button. In the year 2241, a visitor arrived at Sharonmouth, the orbital citadel of our people. The visitor simply called himself Hod and offered us a bargain. In return for a price yet to be named, he would send a knight into the shroud. From an entity within, the knight would at last glean the knowledge we sought. The knight Bruce Abercrombie jumped in with the holy visitor's guidance. He met deep in the shroud the Stellaris of Secrets, a being that he could only later describe as beauty beyond compare. In exchange for the scent of the first day of summer, the satisfaction of a challenge overcome, and the warmth of a lover's embrace, we had what we wanted revealed to us. And with that, the Stellaris of Secrets gave to our species the memory of the one day the toxic god unleashed its gift upon Vipuri. But as one, the entire population of the Vernox Mandate felt a profound yet intangible sense of loss sweep over them. Formerly pleasant sensations were dulled, apathy spread like wildfire, and afterwards it was hard to dredge up motivation for even the simplest of tasks. Yet with this, a new door in our minds began to open. Our latent psionic abilities were uncovered. Little did the Malevite people know the dark and eternal path they had laid before them by opening the door in their minds. For a door opens both ways. And there were horrors out there in the universe beyond comprehension, eager and waiting to slip inside. Crime has spread across our world like a plague, all thanks to the Lavan Syndicate. And with little in the way of offensive capabilities, attempting to expel Corporation may prove rather costly here. Port Tamworth, our second colony, and once one of the largest trading bases in the Mandate, also an industrial centre, has now fully succumbed to crime. Not only have they attempted to make a deal with the crime lords on this world, the legal authorities having a mutual understanding with the leading crime lords was meant to prevent the worst excesses of that organisation, but a massive criminal underworld now spans the entire planet. All trade has virtually shut down, or at least all taxable trade. Everything is now done under the counter, so to speak. Within the galactic community, an interstellar body designed to, help and do something political, well, they're trying to pass the Readied Shield. Now, all of these other nations have apparently managed to develop interstellar warships and now have large navies. These navies, they're using them in a diplomatic fashion. We don't have a navy like that, so passing something like the Readied Shield would be deeply problematic for our people. Security contractors, on the other hand, allowing other empires to build mercenary enclaves would be very useful, as we could then hire these mercenaries without having to build ships of our own. The Lavan Syndicate, a complete thorn in our side, have now gained two additional vassals. The Biran Collective and the Queptilium Collective, both hive-minded species, now represent between them a large block under the Lavan Syndicate. And if that weren't enough, the Yusravanaran Consolidated States to our south here have an overwhelming fleet compared to us, though apparently we still have some cordial relations. In the midst of all of this upheaval, with crime sweeping across our worlds, the Great Awakening has taken place. The veil has been lifted, and our species finally can see into the deep dark of night. As the minds of our people have become more attuned to one another, and we can finally feel the pain of other sentient creatures around us, chattel slavery has become very, very unappealing. Instead, we're now going to move over to indentured servitude. That way we'll fill it with a complex web of bureaucratic forms that mean it is completely impossible to really know if you're a slave or if you've just got massive, massive debts. Upon reaching into the shroud, we found an entity, an eldritch power of unfathomable purpose, and it has seeped into the cracks of our psyche. We are going to try to commune with the ineffable. Oh, and also, we need to take eternal vigilance. Of course, we must stand vigilant forever against the horrors at the edge of our consciousness. And apparently that might help us with shooting down enemy spaceships and the like. The presence welcomed us with genial familiarity. The composer of strands promises that our biological forms can be improved, changed, nay, evolved. Not only that, the composer seems to have a striking resemblance to the most beautiful of creatures described previously by our good glorious knight. There may be a price to pay, but we must form a covenant and find out more. Oh, and we just got the psionic archive, a relic of unfathomable power, which would help us with all of our shroud-based activities. We completely failed to prevent the passing of the readied shield. We dodged the agenda for a long time, pushing other things ahead in the queue, making sure that other nations would support our attempts to deny it, but the entire galaxy united to say that the universe is a dangerous place and we need more ships. In order for this travesty to never be allowed to occur again, the Serene Protector Julian Spencer has decreed that a diplomatic corps must be established, and a tradition of political malfeasance, or political skullduggery, should be undertaken. We can summon a psionic avatar. We're going to attempt to do that. Does that mean? No, we didn't succeed, apparently. Apparently, even when we attempt to summon psionic avatars to do our bidding, we simply can't build any ships. It seems the composer of strands has bequeathed upon us a little blessing, a mutation. We are now resilient. The Evandarian Reclaimers, an ancient and decrepit precursor empire elsewhere in the galaxy, apparently has awoken. These decrepit fools are now moving out with, again, some sort of ship that is propulsed by a means of, I'm guessing, propulsion. Simply terrible. And they're going to go out and have some terrible fun in the galaxy. Unfortunately for the Vernox Mandate, the Evarian Reclaimers are just a stone's throw away from our core systems and our core worlds. I have honestly got no idea if we can successfully repulse them if they do decide to attack. Thus far, our metal has not been tested, yet our star-based defensive platforms range in the large to the extreme, with a variety of weapons and defenses prepared to face any enemy. The great and beautiful composer of strands, Slanesh, creeps further and further into the psyche of our people. The Malavites know that only through building a sanctum on our chief Forge world can we hope to appease this god. This is going to grant us bonus habitability, extra resources from jobs, and amazingly 3 additional telepaths, which when we combine with the 2 from our Psi Core will be giving us plus 50% output from jobs on this one world alone, which is beyond comprehension. Finally, our manifestations in the psychic realm, our prayers to the great god Slanesh, have been answered in the form of this beautiful psionic avatar. An avatar has appeared above our world, thus giving us, for the very first time in all of our history, military combat power. That won't quite be enough to push us into realms of Galactic Council administration. Maybe if we can find some mercenaries as well, we might be able to get something going. In 2280, scientists in the Vernox Mandate detected a very faint tachyon signal which was being continuously transmitted across the entire galaxy. Our technicians were unable to trace the signal to its source, as it was being bounced between several hidden relay stations. Aside from adding a small amount of background noise in FTL transmissions on certain subspace frequencies, the signal does not seem to have had any apparent effect. Efforts to track down the relay station are underway, but until then, we may simply have to learn to live with this ghost signal, as it has been dubbed by the more imaginative elements of the galactic media. Reaching into the shroud, we were met with a presence that offered a reward for our greatest governor, Hubert Granville. Unfortunately, that reward turned out to be death, and we have lost the greatest governor in living memory, who's now been replaced with a lowly David Illingworth. We'll have to see how that goes, but the High Council are not particularly happy. The defenses around our core border systems are being upgraded to their highest possible levels now. Hopefully that'll be the push we so desperately need. Continued analysis of this so-called ghost signal has revealed that it is transmitting energy patterns nearly identical to those found in the positronic brains used by synthetic beings. It must be assumed that the signal is directly responsible for the mass disappearances and behavioral changes that have been observed in the synthetic population of the galaxy. Thankfully, this is not our problem though, as we have no synthetics whatsoever. Meanwhile, the Malevite campaign to achieve dominance in the galactic community had met with a frustrating end. Unable to prevent the election for a galactic council any longer, and denied of the right to sit on that council due to our apparent lack of fleets, the Serene Protector was left with a very unsavory choice. It is time to give up on our dream of galactic dominance. We have decided to take a place as a member of the Queptilium Collective, and we will become a bulwark. These are troubling times, and we need a power with flying ships to be able to defend us where we cannot defend ourselves. This is clearly a problem that the synthetics need to deal with. I mean, this entire situation, yeah. I've spoken to the Serene Protector, Julian, and Julian assures me that this isn't a living entity. We have no readings on it. It's not our problem, and we're going to say no, thank you. No, thank you. The first machine world with 800,000 in fleet power is somewhere to our north within, the Queptilium Collective. This could be a problem, but luckily it is quite a way away from us. Let's hope that it doesn't become too much of an issue. A second machine hub here has appeared in the Onatax Kingdom. Yes, so we've got 1, 2 so far. They're moving around, but I'm sure it won't be too much of a problem. It's entirely possible we didn't become a bulwark early enough. And a third machine world has appeared right on the edge of our space. I hope they go north. Yes, they're going north at the moment. We simply don't have the star bases to repulse a firepower of that magnitude. Get out of there. And a fourth machine world within the Sardak Nor space up to the north here. I'm sure this Divine Empire can deal with that. Get out of there. And our first loss here, an automated science ship. Luckily, no scientist died, as it was, of course, automated. The price of alloys in the galactic market, which is entirely within Vernox space, of course, because we have the best marketing tools in the galaxy. Well, yes, the price of alloys has reached an all-time high, but that's fantastic for business, probably. We're, of course, going to become the defenders of the galaxy from our vantage point in this part of space. We are not going to lose a single ship, not a single person. I mean, we don't have any ships, so that's partly why we can easily keep that promise. We're now voting to form a galactic council, and due to the losses other people seem to have suffered to their fleets, we're now one of the preeminent members of the galaxy. Huzzah!
Huzzah!
This could be a problem though. Our entire strategy relies on a wait and see approach, hoping they won't attack us, and it looks like we're about to come face to face with our very first contingency fleet. The entire military hoped that what we could do is just very quietly be ignored in the corner of the galaxy. Nothing really exists in our direction here, so it really shouldn't be a problem. Oh no, here comes 800,000 fleet power. Oh wait, no, they went to their own space. That's fine, that's fine. Well, we've detected 30 incoming ships from Edamar. Now, Bastion intelligence suggests that these ships could have something to do with this contingency we've heard of, but we are throwing out the welcome mat here. We've got all of our... no, they're the contingency. This is a problem. This is very much a problem. We're going to see what we could do. Right, there goes the first orbital ring, gone in a matter of moments. The other orbital defenses look like they're going to fall relatively quickly, yes, and we haven't actually managed to kill any of these war forms. Interesting. Oh, but they're leaving immediately. That's nice. That's nice. They're going straight away. Right. Well, hopefully they don't come back anytime soon.
Not to worry, we are still flying half a ship.
In response to these threats to the galaxy, and these threats are rather large, the contingency is to the north, to the west, to the south. It is everywhere spreading. The Sardak Nor took it upon themselves to become their own version of the crisis. They would defend the galaxy, even if that meant they first had to destroy it. Unlike the Evandarian Reclaimers, the Genlot have now awakened as the second fallen empire to awaken in this galaxy, but with an agenda to defend and protect space, liberty, and justice everywhere. And I hope that includes our space, because so far we would really, really like some more protection. Slaanesh reaches back to tell us that our potential has been achieved. This potential has unlocked both pain and pleasure for us. The will of the flesh is sacred. Apparently this is going to have an effect on the number of traits we can pick, but yes, we can't pick any traits whatsoever. What a shame. Luckily, we don't intend to manipulate our being. We are now a bulwark, and that comes with massive defensive bonuses for both our star bases and our defense platforms. Yes, we're now at 200,000 in power, and the longer we can maintain our bulwark relationship here, the better that will be for us. Perhaps we can even defend ourselves forever in this way, but I'm not entirely convinced. An energy spike detected in the galaxy has brought about another contender in this galactic game of cat and mouse. The Cybrex have returned somewhere out there.
Oh no! Anyway,
Cybrex Beta has returned to the north of the galaxy, quite close to this big contingency grouping here. We'll have to see if they can actually do anything to aid us in the defense of the universe. In a stunning move that I personally did not see coming in my minor role, the first thing the galactic community did after enacting a galactic council in the face of this crisis was to declare the contingency, in fact, a galactic focus. And very surprisingly, in the face of this constant aggression from the contingency, the galaxy has now mostly united in the United Genlot Coalition. This is a hegemony that we now cannot leave and will be perpetual members of. Can't see any diplomatic or social problems coming from this absolutely massive hegemony formed by the awakened empire, the Genlot Peacekeepers, all the way up in the north. The Genlot do seem to have fleets capable of turning back the contingency, so only time will tell if they actually are able to do that. Well, we found some sort of toxic entity in the Gigantu system here. Let's see if we can send just one little science ship, and hopefully with our automated science ship, we might just be able to trigger the event, and thus we'll get our hands on some actual Navy weaponry. Let's see. It's too hideous for words. Okay, we lost it. It was just instant death. Yeah, I think we need to actually defeat the darn thing. First off, I'm not sure Slaanesh would enjoy us killing one of Papa Nurgle's followers here, though actually, no, I think probably Slaanesh would love that. Secondly, we don't have the means, we can't lure it into another system, and therefore, it's somewhat trapped where it is. I had high hopes here for the Cybrex Remnant, with a fleet power dwarfing that of every other power in the galaxy, yet they're simply sitting at home in their ring world, on the edge of galactic space, and doing pretty much nothing.
sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
The High Council of the Galaxy is going to meet in a moment to decide whether or not this is something of a problem. Whilst in the middle of that, the Queptilian Collective are gracious overlords. These fellows are currently arguing someone else is a bigger problem and must be denounced. I mean, the petty politics, will they ever end? We're now at level 2 of our bulwark status. This is meaning that we can now have admirals, which of course we would never use because we don't have ships to put them on. And of course, we'll get some other bonuses as well. Mainly those bonuses being, yes, we'll lose some mineral energy and food production, but we'll get more of that from a fantastic trade deal, and more than make up for any of these issues with massive bonuses to our defense platform hull points and damage. While the great hope we had here for the Genlot Peacekeepers doesn't seem to have gone so well, their worlds are ruined, they have been attacked and destroyed, their systems are now for the most part under the occupation of the contingency. Even the great preserve they once had is devoid of any life except the Genlot, and they soon will be gone as well.
Oh no! Anyway,
we have a second engagement, this time with a much larger starbase. Let's see if we can actually hold off the contingency at all, or if we're just going to crumble at the hands of this enemy. I'm seeing quite a few platforms going down. Let's try to bring those back online by building more. We're losing quite a few here. I think we've killed, yes, we've killed 3 ships. 3 whole ships. Oh my goodness me, is that it? 4 ships, yep. Uh-oh. This, yeah, that's 6 ships. It's not going so great. Not going so great at all. I wonder where the contingency are going to go next, though. For now, they're just sitting there deeply. I mean, actually, they're kind of inside the outer corona of the star. And now they're moving. Where are they moving? They're leaving. Maybe we'll be all right. The Serene Protector, Julian Spencer, has just been chosen by the composer. Obviously, our fantastic defense of the outer systems has shown Slanesh that we are a force to be reckoned with. And for that reason, he's now an immortal fellow that's granting all of our leaders 50 extra years to achieve their goals. We've mutated again, and this time we're no longer slow learners. Apparently, we're only mutating in the fantastically right direction. Oh, and the block of Ganvius is built of Colossus. That's abhorrent, but we're focusing on our inward perfection here. We're now resilient. I mean, I've done no genetic editing, absolutely no genetic editing. It's only the will of Slanesh, and we are now perfect. We're much more perfect than we were before. Maybe not completely perfect. If we could remove sedentary, that would be most excellent, yes. This is the speaker of the Serene Protector, Julian Spencer. Stay calm and remain at home. Remember, a closed border is a safe border. There is nothing out there for us and our people. Remain in your homes. Allow others to come to you to conduct trade. But once they've left your sight, well, they simply cease to exist, and we can stop worrying about them. There are unsubstantiated rumors about some sort of galactic-level threat. I can tell you, as the only civilization in this galaxy, there is no one else out there that could even attempt to disrupt our position as the primary form of life. Rejoice for the Dark Prince! We will have our glorious day in the sun. In these trying times, desperate measures and a fortress proclamation must be issued. Not because there's any enemy out there, no, simply because we want to build the nicest and best fortresses that money could possibly buy. Don't worry yourself about any of this, though. Just go back home and get back on with the shopping or something. Everything is starting to look very pretty. We now have almost 100 defensive platforms established in the Kildatha system to the north, whereas in the south to the Poevra system, it's a bit less, but we're getting there slowly. As something of a technical exercise, we're now commissioning a clone army with some psionic force-wielding leaders. It's going to be perfect. This will not have to be used, of course. It's simply a technical exercise to demonstrate our prestige and our abilities out there in the stars. We are, of course, the biggest, best, and only nation in the galaxy, after all. And before you think the wrong thing, let me just boop. Yes, we're just going to enforce that. Enforce that as a prerogative. We're the best nation. We're the only nation. You cannot think otherwise. On a more technical note, the Queptilian Collective have now lost all of their ships. They're doing not brilliantly. If they fall, we're going to lose some massive bonuses. And for that reason, we're now going to prepare to build our own bulwark vessel over here in the corner. Oh, a space storm! That's going to very much help with slowing down all of this kind of contingency issue. Yes, a bit of a problem threading its way through the galaxy there. The immortal entity Julian Spencer, previously a Malevite, but now something far more. He has attracted a large and devout following in the Vernoct Mandate, worshipped by many as the supreme deity. A call has gone out officially to crown the Serene Protector as the permanent ruler of our great empire now and into perpetuity. Well, we're going to give that a go and see how that works. We've got, we've now got the divine sovereign effect because we have a society led by the great demon prince Julian Spencer, watches over all with a degree of, I assume, banality, something like that. Yes, we're now a little bit spiritualist. That's not too much of a problem. Everything will be just fine. The Evandarian Reclaimers have met their end at the hands of the contingency. That's one galactic threat out of the way. Hopefully, I think the other threat's already basically gone. No, the Genlot Peacekeepers, whilst the Cradle and Brother are still there, and yes, Mother does remain with 24 Genlot, maybe the only Genlot left in existence. All praise the Demon Prince Julian Spencer, and all praise the Dark Prince himself. Port Tamberworth has now been encased entirely and is an ecumenopolis. And so falls the Genlot Peacekeepers, once the leaders of this galactic federation which now well, it's getting pretty fractured. The Sardok Nor are the only independent nation left in the galaxy, along with the Kuvab Democratic Commonwealth, which do have a single world over here. Yeah, good for them, I suppose. But between everyone, the contingency is pushing forwards on all fronts. Within the Vernox mandate, a mandate by the divine being himself, the Dark Prince Slanesh, we have not lost a single world.
There's no war in Ba Sing Se.
What are you talking about? Where do you think all the refugees come from? You can't hide it.
There's no war in Ba Sing Se.
We've just hit the maximum level of our bulwark status, and that means we now have the greatest defensive operations anywhere in the galaxy. Not a single propelled ship, but row upon row of star fortresses aligned and ready to take on any threat whatsoever. We're hopeful. We're very hopeful. It might not quite work, but we are very, very hopeful in the High Command. We've also gained a new component, the Mark of the Composer. Well, we've just been visited by our god, and it turns out we've been getting our god entirely wrong. We've actually been devoting ourselves to the grandfather Nurgle the Rot god. Yes, clearly the Mark of the Composer, which is all about the flesh and the intertwining of our ship, is of Nurgle origin. We're not Slanesh. That's a my bad there, ladies and gentlemen. That is a complete my bad, and I'm not even we're gonna, this point in history, in 2341, we've been 60 years into the crisis, and right now we've realized we are praying not to Slanesh, but to Nurgle. I mean,
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
we're on the search for the toxic god. It's a little stupid we didn't notice, to be perfectly frank. Oops. It is entirely possible that by being the weakest apparent nation from a military standpoint, the contingency crisis has completely ignored us. They're not ignoring anyone else with ships, and when we had one ship, at some point they flew in and killed that one ship. For that reason, and that was our psionic entity, don't forget, that wasn't anything evil or anything we weren't allowed to have, I promise. And that's one more mutation. Let's see where we are at now. We've lost our enduring and our resilient, and we're now simply conservationist. The autocracy of Ganvius Prime, with apparently overwhelming fleet power given their fleet strength of 89, has just been elected the Custodian. I wonder how long they will actually be able to survive given the single world they have remaining. We're also going to switch over our nightly duties from questing knights, we don't need that anymore, and quite frank, I'm not sure we ever did, over to knight commanders. That's going to put them in charge of our stations and beef up our fire rate along with our ship fire rate and army damage even more. We've mutated again. This time we've dropped all of our negatives, and we're apparently now agrarian. This is just fantastic. Praise Nurgle, praise Grandfather, praise the Rot God. Just as we predicted, the autocracy did not last long, meaning there is no longer any sort of custodian anywhere in the universe. As the contingency press further and further into the territories of every empire in the galaxy, the unity that has bound together our great federation has finally collapsed. It seems the price of alloys has crashed. I've got absolutely no idea why, but we are of course going to take advantage of that and buy as many from the market as we possibly can, and use them to further bolster our defenses. We've finally finished a megastructure. That means we can take galactic wonders, and I believe there's nothing really else here that we possibly want to take at this point. Nothing we can even do anything. I mean, Colossus Project would be amazing. However, the Colossus Project is simply outside of our ken. So we're going to take Master Builders and begin our final project to cut off our dire need of Overlord subsidies. Let's research Dyson spheres. Let's make sure that we are a self-sustaining entity out here in the galaxy. And there it is. The Queptelium are unable to pay the research subsidy. That's the first issue we've run into in terms of non-payment from them. But the Shroud has made us all very happy, so what's the problem? Absolutely none whatsoever. With ourselves as the preeminent power on the galactic stage, and the construction of our interstellar assembly well underway, it is time the diplomatic core be replaced with a need for ascensionism. The Queptelium Collective cannot have very long left. They only have 2 planets remaining, one of which is already inside of the contingency space, or it's just been taken, I should say. Not good for them. And in the meanwhile, we are very close to constructing our own Dyson sphere, and thus no longer having a massive energy reliance on that overlord. We've managed to construct a frame. There's now only 1,800 days before we can start getting some energy output, and that might mean we are very soon able to survive the death of our illustrious overlord. Something that I've very just discovered, and I say very just discovered, right now discovered, decreasing ship upkeep. Well, that has an effect on the upkeep, obviously, of all of our star bases. So we've now employed the idea of a grand fleet. We've actually got quite a few of these going. We are making so much unity, all in the name of Grandfather Nurgle, of course, who may or may not be here residing in the Gigantu system. I suspect not, but you know, let's wait to judge. But that now has completely solved every and all energy problem we even partially had. That's a bit of an oversight there by the committee. We seem to have another fleet. In fact, I think it might be the fleet we recently defeated is coming back once more. Yes, here it is. They're coming back to the Owasia system. Let's see if we can actually repulse them this time. We seem to be doing a lot better. We are losing some ships. Oh no, there go our platforms. My fingers are crossed that we can actually... Oh my goodness, we can do it. We can repulse these fleets. That was one entire contingency fleet defeated. We lost about half of the star bases here. That could be a problem. I'm thinking when we lose our overlord, what are we going to lose? Well, we're going to lose a lot of defense platform capacity, as well as damage and hull points. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we need to remain an underling, not become an overlord. The Belmacosan Marauders have declared that we must pay them tribute. We've declined to do that, and we're going to see how well they fare with their moving ships. This is the kind of hubris you get when you decide to strap a rocket to your home. Oh look, their entire fleet, yes, their entire fleet has been destroyed. That is a shame for them. We've got another fleet which has jumped straight into this system, this time into the Poevra system. Let's make sure we turn on all of our edicts here. It's gonna be a good shout. And then, yes, well, we've taken down that fleet in its entirety, but we did lose the orbital ring. This is going to be about building layers and layers of concentric defenses, it seems. And the one frigate we managed to get from an archaeology site, well, that might have been what angered the Autonomous Cluster 33. They jumped in trying to take out our one little frigate there. Well, I think we've got somewhere in the region of, oh, I don't know. I'm going to say about 3 months. 2 months make it left with the 1 month with the Quatilian Collective in charge. This is going to shatter everything. Okay, there goes the Custodian. This is going to be a massive problem in our empire, though. Why is that? Well, we were getting some big bonuses from being a bulwark. Let's see. I have an idea. If I can get this to work, which I might not be able to, but if the Demon Prince Julian Spencer is good for anything, it's getting things to work. It has been decreed that Shipminster shall be the Garden of Nurgle, which is great, fantastic, absolutely amazing, hunky-dory. We're going to establish an embassy, form a commercial pact and a research agreement, and then release our subject. Oh, and of course give them some fantastic trade deals because they've got absolutely nothing. And of course, to get their garden really going, we're going to give them a massive stack of Zro that they can do whatever they want with. Yes, 2,000 Zro, that'll help. Right, so the Garden of Nurgle, they're the primary power. We should respect their authority, and thus, we should propose that we become a vassal to the Archprophet Victor I, who is, of course, a Malevite. Now that we've got them as our overlord, very, very soon, what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to convert ourselves into a bulwark. It'll be absolutely fantastic, fine, perfect, in fact, because they've got very little power and very little to do against it. We simply will need to survive the requisite 15 years or so before we can, well, do anything about it. Now, massive loss of power here. Why is that? Well, we can't hold as many defense platforms around these defense platform areas. We do need to get those bonuses back as soon as we can. Let's just hope our continued strategy of doing absolutely nothing and burying our head in the sand goes down a charm, because there are some other powers left out there in the galaxy that the contingency do need to eat up. Once they've eaten them up, though, hopefully we'll be ready with the Garden of Nurgle. We'll have become their bulwark, and then, if we power up enough, we should be able to continue surviving indefinitely. I really, really hope that we don't get a problem happening where they come in and attack us. It does seem to me, though, generally speaking, the contingency want to deal with all of the fleets out there in the galaxy first, because yes, some of these people still have fleets before they'll try to come and attack us. Now, what could be a problem is if our overlord here, the Garden of Nurgle, starts building ships. Yes, that could be an issue. Only 9 months left before we can begin becoming a bulwark once more. And with the Garden of Nurgle absolutely safely tucked inside the space of the Vernox Mandate, our position in this galaxy should be assured. And now we simply wait another 4,800 days due to our large empire size until we're going to be getting our bonuses back. We've mutated again. This time we've lost agrarian and now we're industrious. I mean, this mutation business is fantastic. We've become a much better species than we started the game as, honestly. And the Garden of Nurgle just elected to join the Holy Covenant, known simply now as the Federation. Halfway there, we haven't been attacked, and we're hopefully not going to be attacked in the intervening time. There is the Dyson Sphere complete. We also have a finished Mega Art installation, a completed interstellar assembly home to the entire galactic community, I have to assume, and a fantastic strategic coordination center primarily adding plus 12 defense platform capacity. Meanwhile, Port Tamberworth here has now reached level 10 ascension, meaning that the Ecumenopolis Foundry requires minus 95% metallurgist upkeep, producing 1,500 alloys every month at the price of only 55 minerals. And if we manage to get back into the large Federation, which we have had to leave unfortunately, then that will go all the way down to 0 minerals. And there we go, we've become a bulwark. So that's going to have helped out on all of our star bases now. They're back up to plus 50% damage. Oh goodness, here we are, yes, 400,000, right. Now I think if anyone were to attack us, it would be an overwhelming victory for us. Now, it might not be a victory at the first starbase here. It's possible we could lose after multiple attacks. However, we have concentric rings of defenses, together totaling, 500,000 fleet power, and that's not just in the one system, that's in almost all of our systems. We've got starbases stacked with neutron launchers, or planetary orbital rings stacked with neutron launchers as well. It's just absolutely beautiful. At this point, with the galactic community dying, but mainly, interestingly, under our control here, we are the preeminent member, and we have an overabundance of the snorty Zro, which everyone seems to really want to trade. We trade 2,000 Zro for 10 favors, and that basically wins anything we need to win in the galactic community. Custodians come and go. As soon as one jumps up, the contingency jumps in to smash them down. But overall, I'm going to declare this an overwhelming success. Apparently the Sardak Nora crisis, an overwhelming success, as we haven't lost a single system. With the borders of the Mandate secure, the Malevite people now found themselves trapped forever in a prison of their own making. Trapped under the rulership of an immortal demon prince, trapped in the service of an immortal god, with giant bastions and defenses at the edge of their space, preventing any contingency fleets from moving into their space and moving against them. But with that, they could also not move out any further. The rest of the galaxy had long since fallen, and the Malevite were now settled in to an eternity of stagnation. The composer of Strands had a wicked sense of irony after all. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see what happens when I challenge myself by attempting to not research a single technology, and all the chaos that leads to in that galaxy, click the video on screen now.